So we'll go over examples of terms. Yeah. Yep. Um, so like I said, we're going to be covering monitoring Azure. This I made this presentation for how our how monitoring actually. I had to do all, in addition to build data lake and all, I had to also build the documentation. Customer say, hey, here. So what we'll go over today is, agenda will be the basics of intentions of logs and metrics, how to collect metrics, law table. When I say law, I'm just going to say law from now on. That means law. Monitoring section, and I explain that, and then the tariff layout. Here's just basically like I just grabbed this from the. Yes, yes, yes. Can they hear? Oh no, no. Basic diagram of all, like a lot of resource thing. So Azure Monitor and Log Analytics Workspace. Azure Monitor, also called Azure Monitor Metrics. Okay? Azure Monitor is a time series database that basically just takes metrics. So you think about metrics, you think about guest, and I know what host, guest and host. All right. So guest metrics are things that you need an agent on. Host metrics are things like, let's just say you're in VMware, and the host is the virtual machine that you deploy. So the hypervisor can look at that and say, I know I could see disk, but I can't really see else within that operating system. I can't see memory because those are things operating system itself. Azure Monitor is basically that. It collects. It's a time series database, so it collects a key value pair base. Okay? So Log Analytics Workspace, it's also going to be called Azure Monitor Logs, stored as tables, and we're basically why this is so complicated and why I'm going to tell you about the headaches is because Microsoft moved from using the Log Analytics agent to the Azure Monitor agent, and they used to have all these different extensions. Have to install in addition to the Log Analytics agent and all of the extensions. Now you don't have to. But when you think about Log Analytics Workspace, it's just basically a place to put logs. Like, so if you have a Linux system, this log, you can send this logs there, or you could do custom logs, like if you want to do like the user directory or just like a file or Windows, you can. Windows events would be a log. Anything in an event viewer would be a log. Anything that's not like a key value pair, that's a long string, right? That's a log. We're going to send all that kind of stuff for resources and services. Log Analytics works. The metric, it's going to go to Azure Monitor. So that's a very general and broad statement. I understand that. There are exceptions. I'm not here to go over exceptions and argue with people, because you always have one in the group. I used to be that guy, honestly. But go over some of those things. So retention. So you have Azure AD. Like what we're talking about right now are the log analytics tables and things that are like when they are stored. So your Azure AD, your retention time for Azure AD by default is 7 days for non-premium and 30 days for premium. And that's your Entra ID. Your subscription, your activity log, your service health and resources, 90 days for your activity log and your service health. Now, what is the difference between activity log, service health, and resource health? Resource is like the thing that you're deploying. Service health is like the whole service, like Azure function as a service is going down. Like your client needs to know about it, right? So your resource is something that you deploy. The service is something that
all your favorite brands. Great sense. And prices we love, it delivers fast.
So those are activity logs. So whenever that is what activity log is, and that's how long it's stored. And you could find all these in the Log Analytics Workspace. Yes. You can extend anything. Most things. But you have to decide where you're going to store it first, but we'll go over that. But we're assuming that all your logs are going to go to Log Analytics Workspace. You can always send them to a third party. You can always send them to storage, which is cheaper, and then decide what kind of storage you want to use. And you could set times to do lifecycle management on your storage. I had to automate some of that stuff too. So, but what all of us are not free tier. That would be. Like for AWS, it's $1,500 a month just out of the box for enterprise support on an enterprise. So the basics, table retention, like Log Analytics Workspace, everything's in a table. It's basically look at it as a database. What you can do is you can go into Log Analytics Workspace, and when we're having problems with the firewall with our customer, because we're a hub and spoke, does anybody know what a hub and spoke is? I'll explain it for those that don't. A hub and spoke is where you basically you split your app into different subscriptions. Do this across multiple clouds, but in Azure you would do dev, test, and prod in one subscription apiece, and then you have your hub in one the main tenants or one of the other subscriptions, and then your firewall would run out of your hub. Log Analytics Workspace would run out of your hub. So basically, you would route. It's basically for anybody that wants like segmentation of their app, so dev isn't touching prod. The old way of doing things like that was like we're going to separate things by resource group, right? And then for like for AWS, for Azure, it's like I'm going to separate things by VPC. Newer ways, because we've seen so many outages, is to separate everything by subscription. So if you have a main app that is the moneymaker of your business, separate it by subscription, right? And then you if everything's internal, besides like if let's just say you have a web app that everything's internal, besides the actual frontward-facing part of the web app. Well, you have to send everything through the firewall internally. Private endpoints, all sorts of things, all going through that hub, right? But that hub also has the Log Analytics Workspace. So we put the Log Analytics Workspace there, and we ship all the logs there. Why does that help us as admins? It helps us because we can go there. If I have a firewall issue where I'm like, I see something like, they're always like, it's a network problem. No, it's, it's an app problem. Well, you could prove them wrong or right because you could just do a little query and query those logs of the firewall and see what's denied, what rule is denying it or allowing, and then see those ports going through and look at your NSG flow logs as well. You could look at all sorts of things in the log, right? So it's pretty neat. And then you could also, I know I said that Azure Monitor is using, it's just a metric like a key value pair, a time series database. Well, you don't have to send just your metrics Azure Monitor. Also send them to the law for further analysis, like in a SIEM like Sentinel, right? So we attach our law to Sentinel, right? So we shipped everything to our law, and then we attach Sentinel on top of it, and then we could start having it do all of its crazy stuff and like putting rules on. So, and there's also export rules. So when you build your Log Analytics Workspace, you also want to have an export rule to send everything when it comes in, to always send it to storage for a backup. Because you always have backup for your storage for your Log Analytics Workspace, but we just export everything out just in case to a storage account. Okay, so let's see, more retention, host, like platform metrics. I explained the difference between host and guest metrics. Host is like the hypervisor, what it can see. Guest are what the OS can see. Those are 93 days a piece. And then guest OS metrics, these are like things collected by the Log Analytics agent. This is old stuff, so that agent's being deprecated. Don't go to it, by the way, because it will just cause you more problems. It is easier sometimes to go to the old stuff, the legacy stuff, because it worked, but it's all being like the Log Analytics agent goes out of support this month. And application insights, log-based metrics, 31 days can be extended to 2 years. You can extend more than 2 years for a lot of this stuff, but these are just what I grabbed off the website. So data collection rule. So a data collection rule is basically what will, when I think of it, I'm like, what am I going to focus on monitoring on this system? So data collection rules work on services. They have data collection endpoints too, and we'll talk about those. But now they're getting rid of data collection endpoints. You can use because their data collection rule is just going to take over. And a data collection rule just basically defines everything that you want to take off that system. So if you have a system where the the agent is running, and you have that data collection rule, and it's just huge, but you're only collecting like 1 or 2 things off of it that for logs or guest metrics, then just shrink that stuff down. So that's where that comes in, where like other clouds, you have to actually go out and deploy like files to your OS, right? And because it's Microsoft, I think this is the one thing that Microsoft did well. You put those rules outside of the OS, where you're not having to go into the operating system itself. You just install the agent outside here. You have the rule. You're like, this is the rule and the things I want to collect. The IAS logs for IE or whatever, like for your web stuff. You could do whatever, right? So let's see. So when I create data collection rules, I create one for Linux and one for Windows. Now, if I'm not using Linux in that subscription, I'm not going to create it, right? But I still create, we have Linux running our DevOps internal agents, right? So I have to create rules for that agent that runs the DevOps jobs, right? So then I also have, for Windows, we have in our integrated runtime for Synapse, which runs all of our Synapse pipelines, you have a Windows machine, or 2 or 3 of them in each one, a virtual machine scale set, that is basically collecting all that stuff on the Windows agent that is running Synapse for us. We're basically running all the pipelines for us. And you can apply this to on-prem stuff, by the way, with Arc. We're not going into that. That's a whole new, but you can actually extend your monitoring. So if you don't have a monitoring solution on-prem and you're in the cloud with Azure, you can also extend an agent out to on-prem, put an endpoint, and then do all the networking stuff. I know I'm just saying that. It sounds funny just saying it out loud, actually. But you could do all the networking stuff to allow it in from your internal network to like send this stuff all to Azure Monitor and Log Analytics Workspace. And you can also transform data before it is forwarded. So what that means is like let's just say I have a string that we keep running across in app dev, and we're just like, I want to transform this every time it comes across to this. So I just want to pick it up every time I get this. Rather than get this big long one, I'm just going to come down to this. Or you could transform anything you want, really. So if you get this, it turns it into that. So it will transform the data on the way to the Log Analytics Workspace. So the data collection endpoint. I use data collection endpoints to send things to the law across subscriptions. I do that because it works a little better. The data collection rules aren't, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, like across subscription, but the data collection endpoint just works for me, and it just sends it straight to the law. So like I said, DC data collection endpoints in a TF scenario assist with shipping to the law. Okay, so these are some of the things you'll see within Azure. Like when you go into Azure Monitor itself, you'll see alert rules, action group, and alert processing rules. An alert rule is basically what you are going to alert on. Like, am I going to alert on this CPU being above 70%? And then what am I going to do? Action group is where is this alert going to? Do you attach all these? What's neat about Terraform is it's all, once I build the action group, the alert rule, and the alert processing rule, I can link them all together in code to where they are linked in code, and then when they get deployed, when they create their custom IDs, or like the old GUID like we used to have in Microsoft, when they create their custom IDs for the cloud, they just have that. So alert processing rules. So this is something that a lot of people forget to do, is like they create an alert rule of 70%, and they say, well, on this alert rule, I'm going to make, if the CPU goes above 70%, I'm going to make that a Sev 2, right? And then what they'll do is they'll basically, I'm going to use service health as a better, or resource health. Let's just say a resource health alert comes in, and I just want Sev 1 and Sev 2s. Well, I can block out Sev 3 and Sev 4s as the noise, so not everybody's getting alerted on those, and that's what alert processing rules do, by the way. Alert processing rules basically filter out all that Sev 3 and Sev 4 noise that you don't need. Sometimes you need it for like resources and yes, for service health if you need it. So it depends. You just have to test it out with your environment, and it's basically up to management and what they want, right? And you want to prevent outages, so. Associations, agents, and extensions. Association is when you create a data collection rule, you have to associate it. So let me just go back. I could create a data collection rule that does all the event viewer stuff for certain events, right? And then I can, but it doesn't really matter because it's just a rule out there, right? Well, I have to associate it with VMs or a group of VMs or a group of resources. So if you have a large set of VMs in a subscription or a resource group, I can point that data collection rule to that resource group and say these types of resources in that resource group, or I could specify individual VMs. You could do whatever you want, really. Agents, we talked about that. It's just something you install on the machine. These, with Terraform, we don't have to go out to machines anymore. We use a system managed ID, and we create that with the Terraform, the system managed ID, and then I basically have it install via, like, once I code it in Terraform, I'll show you that too. It shows me that the agent is installed, and then we install the extension. So Microsoft, there's a guy, he's a bald dude, has tattoos, is kind of buff. He does a lot of Azure classes. You've seen him on YouTube, I'm sure. Very good at like teaching this stuff. I learned a lot of stuff from him. Well, he says that extensions are going away, right? I think he's like kind of like, he is my expert on Azure. Whenever I need something for Azure, I go to his YouTube page. But we still need extensions right now. We're still, like, we used to have 3 to 4 extensions, 2 to 3, to get all this data off of a virtual machine. Now we just need the Windows extension and the Linux extension. And those basically help with VM Insights. If you don't install the extensions and these kind of things, what you'll see is when you go into the portal, you'll see like VM Insights, you'll see like a lot of those metrics are missing where you're like, I thought I was like monitoring this device. Like, why don't I see metrics? Why don't I see all the cool graphs and stuff? Well, if you don't install that extension, and if you don't install VM Insights correctly with that extension, then it doesn't work for some reason. That's where Microsoft is kind of like, I had to go to so many different pages just to get the right way to do it, and that's what frustrates me about Microsoft sometimes, is there's 3 different pages for the one way to do things. What? Yes. Yep. He's really good. John Seville, right? Yep. I'm just saying on that. Okay. How to collect metrics and logs. So, have you seen the diagnostic settings within all the different resources? Well, with diagnostic settings, you basically could send that to the log. In those settings, you could see metrics and log analytics workspace, and you send them to the you could send that to the log analytics workspace. And you could send the metrics there as well. You could send it to a third party, or you could send it to like a what's the event hub? Is that the name in Azure? The event to where you could trigger an event. So you could do 4 things with diagnostic settings. For all of our services and all of our resources, we set up diagnostic settings in Terraform. It saved us so much time and such headaches just to always configure that in Terraform. So these are basically where the destination. And so Um, yes. Yep. Yep, so the four things you can set up for diagnostic settings to send it to is log analytics workspace, a storage account, a third party, or the fourth one was what? Event Hub. Yeah, we talked about. All right, thank you. So this is how to collect. This basically goes like you can look over this and basically like deduce like what you're needing if you want to later. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook. I mean, it's just like it's all information I could go over right now, but it's just like I'd just be reading it to you. So, example tables in the law: Azure Activity, AZ Firewall Network Rule. These are just like when you go in the law, you're basically gonna just it's they call it KQL or KSQL something. Custo query language. Yep, Custo query language, and it's kind of like SQL but with a PowerShell twist to it, where you're like doing pipes. You know how in PowerShell you do pipes, and it's kind of like that's how I describe it. But for example, if I wanted to look up all the network rules and allows and denies, I would just type in AZ. Well, I would just type in AZ firewall. I would look at the table, just put the table in there, and it would show me everything in that table. And these are some of the example tables. So I could see heartbeats of machines. I could see all sorts of things. I could see when machines logged in. I could like all sorts of Entra stuff you could see in here too, if you're logging Entra here, if you're sending it to the log. So insights. So this is basically explaining what you've all seen this in the portal: insights, alerts, metrics, workbooks, diagnostic settings. Workbooks is where you're setting up automation. We went over diagnostic settings, logs. It's basically like I want to query the law on this resource. That's where you would click on that. And if you click on that and you don't have a log analytics workspace set up, they'll offer it. It's expensive. I don't know. I couldn't tell you how much it is, but it's like our one customer that just had a data lake, like the log analytics workspace, because of the query was like $1,000 a month. So you have to think about just look at the pricing page for log analytics workspace, because it is not just a place to, it's like a managed database pretty much. Alerts, that's where you set up alerts on. You guys get this. All right, so now we're going more into Terraform. I don't know if you guys want to go into actual code, C code, or if you just want me to describe what I put in slides. It's up to you. Like, I could go over both. I just go over the slides first and then go over the actual, like the code, and just show you examples if you want. Because I did sanitize some of the code, and or all of it actually, but I sanitized it so I could show it for this meeting. So if it's up to you guys, it's your meeting, so what do you think? What's that? Yeah. Yep, I'll just show you what these slides are real quick. Actually, I'm going to show you the breakdown of how I label things in Terraform, which might help with some people. Because what happens is Terraform is you could put everything in one Terraform file. Well, not everything, but most of your resources you could put in one Terraform file, with the exception of variables and like TFRs. Okay. So when you put everything in one Terraform file, it kind of gets confusing for others to look at, right? Because then you have to, if I'm looking for a metric alert on this computer, this server, like where am I going to find that? Where am I going to find the alert processing rule? Where am I going to find the alert? Where am I going to find the action group? So what I did was I did a monitor alerts and a monitor base. The monitor base always contains the action group for the subscription. The action group is where you, um, uh, it's basically like the emails, all the email addresses, all the places you want to send alerts to. The monitor alerts contains resource and service health alerts and their corresponding rules for the subscription. It does not contain app-specific alerts. So so I break everything up in between net and app. So that's what we're going over right now. This is the network for one of the subscriptions. Now, all the Terraform I have, like I build it so you could put it in dev, and then you could put it in test, and then you could put it in prod. So you just change a variables file for dev, test, and prod, so the code does not change. It never changes. There's nothing hard-coded except the resource group name. Okay? So this is the network for the landing zone, which is the subscription that's not the hub, it's the spoke. This is the app. The app has monitor alerts. It has app-specific rules with their alert processing and suppression rules. It has the association. How do you associate the data collection rules to the VMs? It has the base, the monitor base, which is your DCRs, your data collection endpoints, your agent install, and your extension install. Because this is your app portion of your Terraform. This is where your VM is going to be, or your function, or your Kubernetes cluster. So on the platform, we have monitor alerts. It has the virtual machine scale set and their alert processing rules. That's the virtual machine scale set is what we use for DevOps as the agents, the internal agents. And the monitor association, it contains the associations of the data collection rules to the virtual machine scale set. So eventually I want to share a lot of this code with you, but I don't have like the hub and spoke network. That would cost a lot to build one. So we're working on a lab and improving so I could share like the base of this for everyone, because I believe it'd give it back to the community, because I struggled so many years with like this kind of, I need examples. So I'll work on that in the next 6 months for you guys, just to get you code for this. And then the monitor base is DCR for metrics, action group for resource group. So that's your platform, and that's the hub. You have this hub, and then you have the spokes, which are all your subscriptions. So then you have your diagnostic setting. This is where all your diagnostic settings. You have a diagnostic setting for every single resource, including like NICs, anything that can have a diagnostic setting on it. I had to figure out how to do each one of those. And sometimes it could, like, so you could create modules for that where you're like, I want to send, but with diagnostic setting, all the settings are different, because as you know, like, when you go into diagnostic settings, it's not always the same kind of things you can send to your log analytics workspace. It'll have different metrics for a VM versus a function versus a NIC versus something else, or private endpoint. So on the platform, this is where we store our law, is in another resource group just for logs. We have a resource group on our platform just where we store all the logs. And this is where the storage account is for that. This is where the log analytics workspace is. So for this, we always do resource and service health in every resource group and every subscription, and their processing rules. And then we do action group, which is the group that you email or send messages to, and then the DCRs for VM Insights, or the DCE. So now, let's just go to, I'm going to stop sharing because I think 7 of my VS Code went. Just reboot it. That would not be. I'm going to move this over here. All right. So here we're in the subscription. We're in the network, a resource group of the subscription. Yep. Oh, thank you. All right. Can you guys see that better? I couldn't see it, so I was like, all right. Oh, am I sharing? Okay. All right. So I opened all the editors for what I'm sharing tonight. So those are what we're going to go through. Then we'll have questions, or you can ask questions now while I'm talking. So this is the monitor base for the subscription in the spoke. So this would be either dev, test, or prod. So this is like the action groups. What an action group looks like. So I have service desk, IT systems, me, right? But that's basically how I build an action group, and then all those are. So if you look at this var.alert distro list, that's just a list of emails in a variables file, a TFVars file. So dev, test, and prod has their own alerts. So if you don't want your developers to get all the prod alerts and you just want operations to get prod alerts, then that's why things are separated, and they're not hard coded. So that's the base. That's on the network side, because we build that on the network side because we want to use those. We want to reach out to that resource group and look at that action group. We want to use it in case we build another resource group that reaches out to that within that subscription, right? So I always just build those action groups within the network. So then we have these are resource and service health. So service, just to reiterate, service health is like if Azure function as a service, and then resource health is the Azure function that you build, that you deploy. So here it's showing the scopes, it's showing the subscription. It's saying, hey, everything in this subscription, that is my scope for service health. So I'm not like, it's basically a wild card. So I am using that as a wild card to grab everything, because we have ran across stuff with our customer where I had no idea we had a vulnerability that Microsoft was that they needed to fix, and we got like this service health alert that they got, and they alerted me to it because they got it because of our logs that we built for them. And they're like, hey, do you know how to fix this? I'm like, what is it? And they sent it to me, and they're like, oh, we need to fix our outbound access issue and go through a NAT rather. So it's kind of neat. My scope is the whole subscription. So that is, so we're talking about, so let's look at a suppression rule for that service health. So Sev3 and Sev4s, the client said we don't care about Sev3s and Sev4s. We just want Sev0 through, I think it's Sev0 through Sev2. So that's how they got it. But we suppressed all those other ones. Make sure we're not missing anything here. So this is in the app section. That was all the net section. I'm sorry for. So this is your DCR, your data collection rule. I'm going to show you what those look like and so it will make sense. So here's a let's just look at it. For metrics, that's for Azure Monitor metrics for default. This is, you can see, I know it says Microsoft syslog. That's just something that they put in the default. You have to put, so you can see and I think this has to do with the WSL because it's on there as well. We don't have a Microsoft syslog example, but this is the only way I got it to work was this way. But this is basically the Microsoft events. This is or the DCR for Microsoft Windows. Now I had to create, I had to reverse engineer this VM Insights because the customer was complaining about I can't see my real-time VM data in the portal. So I had to build this. This is why I want to give a lot of this to you guys, and like by the end of the year, is just so you have it. But this is how I built like that so it works, so they can see those real-time metrics on that resource through this VM Insights. I had to reverse engineer it. I had to create it first in the portal, then run a Terraform command with an import, and then basically see that this is exactly how it has to be. Can't go outside of this for VM Insights. It can't be more custom than this. This is the one thing you can't customize, is what I learned. I don't know why. I've tried reading more on it, but it's one of those things with Microsoft. So here's that's the endpoint. This is one of the data collection endpoints. And here's for example the Azure Monitor extension or Azure Monitor Windows agent. I'm sorry. So I see I'm using a managed identity there. It's actually custom made, so I don't even know what the name is. So here's the extension that I had to figure out. The extension allows you to see all the guest OS stuff. This is super boring, I know. But here's an example of like a metric alert for CPU. And see, I have my thresholds even. They're in a var file. Because what if dev is like, for some reason, what if dev is just like a little different than test and they just want a different threshold? So anytime you see var dot something, it means that it's in that in a variable file, a tfvar file, tfvars file where we just set that separately for each environment. And then here's seeing the rule suppression memory. I was trying to show you something else. Oh, so also we had alerting rules for Synapse pipelines. So pipelines within Synapse, they would fail. Well, we wanted to know when they failed because our developers they're like, I need to be alerted on this, right? And rightfully so. So we built pipeline rules. Basically like, well, the value starts with, and that as long as you follow a naming standard, a lot of this stuff gets really easy and repeatable. scalable. So they follow a naming standard for all their pipelines. So they're just like, it starts with this. So we know like these pipelines will get alerted on. Let's see, association. So this is where you attach a VM or a resource to a data collection rule. And as you can see, look at the target resource ID. It's the virtual machine within that. So if we have one virtual machine in each environment running those pipelines for Synapse, then we're gonna, it's just, I don't have to hard code it. I can just do Azure Windows Virtual Machine VM Integration Runtime.id, and it's already named, so I could just, I don't have to hard code anything anymore. There was one more thing. Show you Linux. It's the same. Oh, I can't find it, so that's all I have though. Any questions? There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of like core concepts like Terraform and I will put it on GitHub. I'll talk to Improving, my friends over there, and just like ask if we can make a hub and spoke network in our own. Otherwise, I'd be in the portal right now showing you a lot of this, honestly. But I just moved to a new client with Google Cloud, so. Okay. Yep, I'm trying to make a hub and spoke baseline for this. So like other DevOps people can like basically have that base firewall, because building that firewall and all those building out your network and the subnets within each of the subscriptions with all the routes going to the firewall and doing the right thing, like it's a pain, and all the DNS too, right? It's just a pain. So I'm thinking about building a base for that too, because like you kind of have to if you're going to build a hub and spoke for this. So. Any other questions? Like to run Terraform? Oh, so you pay for storage, and you pay for, you shouldn't pay for backplane, like stuff traveling on the backplane, like on their network. But you pay for storage, like, and we pay for Sentinel's expensive. Where I'm trying to go with this though is, if you were to use something else like Datadog or what's the other one that it was what's the other big monitoring? Did some ABI work. Anyways, if you were to use one of those, any of those third-party monitoring solutions, I think it would be a lot, 10 times more. Where right here, the investment is time, in your time, which your manager normally doesn't allow you. Most, like when I was in operations or whatever, I don't know what you guys do, so like, they never gave me time. They'd say, if you want to do better things for the company, you're going to have to do it on your own time. I'm like, well, why can't we just move to, like, why can't we monitor? So we don't have these outages all the time, you know? Splunk is log, yeah. Dynatrace is the one. Yep. The what? exactly. It's a, this way, everything is in code and so I'll give you an example. I worked at a company for 5 years in Omaha, and I was their DevOps architect. I would have arguments with the app devs all the time about outages. And I would say, we don't have the same environment that we have in dev, that we have in QA, that we have test and prod. They're not, none of them are the same. And they would always say, well, that we can't prove that it's not you then. Over and over. Like, we'd have, and then at the end, we'd always prove that it was, well, not, most of the time we would prove it was code issue, right? Doing things with Terraform and doing things in this manner where you're setting out everything to where you run everything through like a life cycle with CI/CD, you basically say my dev environment is just like my test, is just like my prod. So if you're going to come at me with this, like dev is not like prod, well, you're going to have to like prove it. But I have everything in code. So I always encourage everybody to, I know it's hard to get into, but like everybody to start just putting all their stuff in IAC. And it takes a shitload of time. Yes, I know that. But it's worth it in the end, I think. But what was that company that just caused the largest outage of all time, CrowdStrike? That was all automated. So your automation could, like, you could be causing the world's biggest outage too through automation. So. It what? Really? Yeah. Are there any other questions? Well, Terraform has a TF state file that you store, like when you, okay, so I'll go through that real quick, if you don't mind. So when you deploy Terraform, you first deploy a storage account. You need to have that first, and you have to have that place to where it's always, so we have a dev TF state file, a test, and prod TF state file. And whenever you deploy Terraform, it's always checking that state file. See what has changed between that state file, what you've already deployed, and what's in. And it's going to say, this is what has changed in the environment. This is what we're going to change. So where it helps with that too is, let's just say I make a change to one of my VMs. And I'm like, I don't know how to freaking code this, right? What I do is I make a change to the VM in dev, and I run that Terraform, but I don't apply it to dev. And I look at the change in the init and the plan, and I say, hey, this is that change, and it shows me that change in code, and then I just add that, pass it on to test and prod. Now, state files are like, there's issues when you can run into issues with them, don't get me wrong. I've run into issues. It happens all the time, not all the time, but yes, that's how, that's how Terraform does. Did I answer it? I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know because I've never used the paid version, and yeah, yeah. There is. I did this all without. The only thing with using the community is it's going to take more time. So if you're on a project that's super fast, that you have tons of unlimited budget, yeah, pay for support. Why not? Because then they could be like, this is why you're having problems here with this code, right? Right. Well, it is. I've used ChatGPT for. I like it, by the way, because I wrote a file tree generator that basically goes through, scans all my code, and then I send that through ChatGPT, and I say, I need to add this resource to this whole, right? And they're like, this is where you would do it, and this is, so it has all my naming, because I use the Microsoft naming standards, right? So it does all my formatting for me, right? Yeah, no, it's led me down weeks of bad paths though. So you have to be careful. And a lot of the old versions of code are are in ChatGPT, like the stuff that is not modern. So, and it seems like every project I'm on, they're always like, "Oh, this is the newest provider for Terraform, like the newest, resource that you need." So I'm like, "Damn it, I have to be," you know what I mean? So it's like, it could be frustrating. Yep. Do you use CDK then? I like it a lot. Yep. Yep. Yeah, so I have all these like the good thing about being in consulting is I have more time than I did at a like an employer where I was keeping the lights on. Like, so I have the chance to study the new technology, right? Where when I was at that employer keeping the lights on, I didn't have that. And it was like, so when I was studying for my certs, I was like all my time was away from my son and just like, you know what I mean, away from family and on call and all that stuff. Like being a consulting, it's not like that. So it's like it's um, it's a lot more learning, but it's very nice. Like I'm also trying to sell, like I'm not denying that it is nice being, you know what I mean. So working for who I work for, I enjoy it a lot. So I get to do this, like talk to other geeks like me. Any other questions? Any questions on the call? I'm gonna I'm gonna look at the chat real quick. Yeah. Thank you guys.